Hi, everybody. Welcome to another broadcast from the Two Bear Arms channel. We appreciate everybody tuning in today. Today, we're talking a little bit of politics, and I know that's out of our norm sometimes, but whenever I find a candidate that's important to me, I want to bring it to you folks because the Second Amendment, of course, is our main cause. And today, we're going to be interviewing Jeff Sharp, who is running for Marshall County Sheriff. Jeff, I appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Kurt, for having me.
Absolutely.
I really greatly appreciate this.
Absolutely. And just a little history for our viewers. I've known Jeff for probably 20 years, I would say.
Yes,
yeah.
If not longer.
Yep. And we've worked professionally together, and we've been, friends, I would say, during that time. And so I know an awful lot about Jeff. I feel very confident with sitting down and talking to you about it. And as you know, we don't do these interviews often, so we are selective in it. So you're one of the chosen ones, I guess.
Wow, look at me.
Look at that. Starting out with big compliments right off the bat. I like that.
All right. Let's see if we can continue that.
Absolutely. So you are, in this aspect, the first candidate that I have ever interviewed that is signed up as a Democrat. And we need to talk about that just a little bit because my viewers just shuddered a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure I felt it.
Yep, absolutely. Because like 99.9% of my viewing audience are gun owners. Yes. They're constitutionalists, Second Amendment, pro-Second Amendment, and for the most part, conservative. So let's hear a little bit about how we ended up here on the Democrat ticket and tell the folks what they expect from you.
Well, I didn't come into that decision lightly, Kurt.
Okay.
It involved a lot of praying, a lot of talking with my wife. It was my only option.
Okay.
To do the independent run, there wasn't enough time to grab those amount of signatures that was needed, and thus the praying.
Yep.
And my beliefs caused the praying.
Okay.
I needed guidance and leadership, and my wife provided that, and the good Lord provided that. I made a phone call to a person that I trusted.
Okay.
Not a politician, just a person I trusted, and I explained my dilemma. Mm-hmm. And they pointed out a few things that needed to be considered. The concerns I had with the Marshall County Sheriff's Department and what it meant to not put politics into the concern.
Okay.
To make the proper choice for the people.
Okay.
Politician, the sheriff of Marshall County, the mayor of Plymouth, as an example, they have to serve everybody. Mm-hmm. Marshall County is 429 square miles. You have to serve everybody. Politics can't play into it. Mm-hmm. There was my answer. The good Lord answered.
Sure.
And I put my name in the hat. And yes, I have a D in front of me.
Yep.
I have a D in front of me. But I want people to know who I am.
Sure. And, we realize that that's probably going to be just a little bit of an uphill battle for you as far as, being the D on the ticket. But at the same time, and what we're hoping that all voters are keeping in mind, especially in all elections, is that they're not necessarily anymore looking for a party affiliation. They're looking for the person.
Yes.
And that's the one point that I'm going to drive home as we get closer to November for all candidates. Look at the candidates directly. Don't necessarily walk in and we were just talking about that a few minutes ago, is that, in all the years that I voted, I've never walked in and just flipped a straight ticket for Republican. Most of the time I voted for a lot of Republicans.
Yes.
But if the right Democrat comes along or the right independent come along, I would place a vote there.
Yes.
And then sometimes there was no good choice at all in the candidate block. Correct. So I would not vote. That would be my abstain from it rather than, picking the lesser of the evils, some people say. But sometimes there's just no good choice. So people need to get away from, I wish they'd just do away with the whole option to hit just one ticket and walk out easy. Let's stop doing it easy. Easy's got us where we're at now. And that's a problem nationwide.
It is.
So you ended up in this spot as the Democrat candidate. Yes. And so you're bringing some different things to the table, obviously. And, talk a little bit about your history, your pedigree for the position of Sheriff of Marshall County.
Well, I started my law enforcement career in the state of Florida.
Okay.
I was a state trooper for just a tick under 2 years.
All right.
My wife at the time and self relocated back to Plymouth. That's where our families are from.
A lot of family ties there.
Oh, a lot of family ties. I started working for the Marshall County Sheriff's Department on a part-time basis as a jailer dispatcher.
Okay.
And I did that from 1989 through 1991.
Okay.
Sheriff Ed Criswell at the time hired me then as a road deputy.
All right.
And after over 20 years of service, I retired. And here I am today.
Okay. All right.
And I know that the department I retired from, and I went through 6 sheriff races as a deputy. And the department I left and the department that's today, it's not the same. It is, it's down a notch or two.
Okay.
And it's time that we build it back up. And there's some things that I feel very passionate about that I want to bring to the Sheriff's Department to the future.
Okay. Yep. Yep. And in that respect, one of the unique things that I find about your candidacy, you've been off the road for a while,
yes,
but you've also stayed connected to the criminal justice system.
That is correct. I am, when I retired, Bill Martin, the chief of police of Bourbon.
Sure.
Bill.
I'm friends with Bill.
Oh, yeah. Nice guy. Just
Great guy.
Super nice guy. He asked me if I would be a part-time officer.
Okay.
And so since then, through the Bourbon Police Department, I've maintained my law enforcement certification. I've worked on and off part-time for Bourbon currently, and also for the last about 4 years, I've worked for Ward Byers.
Okay.
And he is, of course, the director of Marshall County Community Corrections. And I'm a field officer, so I interact with clients through community corrections. I take care of pretrial clients. I help with the employment initiative in helping clients that either come out of jail, come out of prison, to find employment. And we talked about that briefly. That is a very successful program, and I'm proud to say that we have 100% employed.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So for me to summarize just a little bit for our viewers, you've worked in the jail, you've worked in communications, you've worked in the road, you've worked in the administrative side, and then you've worked in the after placement with the probation or the outgoing inmates. So
exactly, through community corrections.
Now, in there also from the private sector, you've been a business owner.
Yes.
Okay. So you've got business experience on top of that. So,
correct.
And that's one thing that I find anytime that I'm interviewing candidates or even employees or, helping people with different aspects of business and things, those that have prior experience in business, that helps a lot from the administrative side.
Oh, yes. My father was a banker his whole life.
Okay.
And I followed my father and my mother's direction when it came to investments, into baking and making proper financial decisions. And that started with me when I was 9 years old.
Okay.
And
so just a couple years ago.
Yeah, just a couple years ago.
Right.
I'm 58 now, and I up until my father's passing, I always listened to my father, and I always followed his guidance, as well as my mom's prior to her passing, their guidance financially, and I've learned a lot.
Fantastic. All right, let's get into meat of some of the topics then.
Sure.
Let's talk about what Jeff Sharp as sheriff would be doing for the county, and let's talk a little bit about emergency management. I know that's one thing that we discussed a little bit.
Sure.
Where currently do you see gaps in the system or things that could be done better, and what would you put into place?
Well, with my daughter being a school teacher, and I have 5 grandchildren that are in the school system in Marshall County, and 1 grandchild on the way. I believe and I feel strongly with regards to school safety. We have to learn from our past.
Sure.
And in history, unfortunately, can repeat itself if we don't take proper action. I am a firm believer in one county, one protocol program.
Okay.
And hopefully we're able to link in the description on this video. But I want people getting back to, instead of voting straight ticket, to do your due diligence and research. And I have links for One County, One Protocol. Sheriff Reynolds out of Porter County is the go-to guy with school safety. And that school safety goes beyond active shooter. It also goes to a massive weather incident. Okay. And it's bringing all law enforcement, school administration, fire EMS to the same table. And you take all the schools in the county, every one of the schools, and everybody that responds to those schools, no matter where they're located, they're on the same page. Okay. It is literally a no-brainer. And our school superintendents in the county are big proponents of this, huge proponents. They have enacted this One County, One Protocol themselves. But they have a very deep desire to expand that to law enforcement, fire, and EMS. And the director of EMA, Clyde Avery, hasn't had any assistance with that. Okay. Well, the sheriff of Marshall County is the chief law enforcement officer. Mm-hmm. He should be the leader of that. Sure. I want to be the leader of that. I believe strongly in this for the safety of our children, our grandchildren, our teachers. We need to do this. And so I want to be the leader in that, bringing all these people, all these first responders to the table. The school superintendents are supportive of this. This is not reinventing the wheel. Right. Sheriff Reynolds has invented this. Very nice guy. Sure. He's willing to share his knowledge, share this with other communities. The One County, One Protocol that the superintendents have enacted already come from Porter County. Mm-hmm. It's very simple, but the training of it. And this has to be a concise training with everybody on board, everybody at the table. And I want to lead that. I want to bring these people to the table. I want to assist our children and our grandchildren and our teachers and the administrations have to feel safety or to feel safe. We have to learn from the past. Right. And unfortunately, the past with regards to school safety is sad. And we don't want to hash over that, and I don't want to, but we have to learn from that. And as the chief law enforcement officer, we have to prepare for that. And our superintendents are preparing for that. Sure. Super. Yeah. And, being in the gun business and in the gun shop business, we get the opportunity to talk to hundreds of people a week. And, school safety is on everyone's mind. Yes, we have as it should be. Absolutely. We have a very large clientele of teachers and then of parents that are just concerned about the safety for their children. And there again, all the gun topics are brought up here at the gun shop and of course they are. Discussed. So that leads me into the Second Amendment side of things. And there again, I'll interview any candidate for anything. If they're anti-gun, we're going to have a really heated debate. Oh, we are. They'll probably want to sit on that side of the table and talk to me about it. But and I've never had any of them want to come in and do it. So in this case, tell me a little bit about your stance on the Second Amendment for all our viewers. I am pro Second Amendment. Kurt, you've known me for over 20 years. That was a baited question, but yes. Yeah, go ahead. I've purchased guns from you. Yes, sir. I am an avid gun collector. As a sheriff's deputy, I was the department armorer when we carried Sig Sauer. I was the department armorer when we carried Glocks. I was active in the firearms training. I am an AR-15 armorer through Rock River. I have built 5 different AR-15s on different platforms. Again, as I get older, I find myself more geared towards gun collecting. I love Colt Pythons. Sure. I'm a big hunter. I'm a bird hunter now. I used to, growing up, I was a coon hunter, had hounds. I love hunting with dogs. And I turned that into waterfowl hunting. I love Beretta shotguns. Okay. I started with the 391s, and now I'm in the ultralights. And my son, unfortunately, to the chagrin of maybe some relationships he had, he is a huge waterfowl hunter. And I started him in that years ago, and he is thoroughly ate up with that. Right, so as far as the Second Amendment is concerned, I not only support it, but I've always defended that. And I've defended the right of individuals. And in this state, in and by itself, The lawmakers of this state passed constitutional carry.
Yes.
And thank God they did that.
Yes.
Let's just take Greenwood, Indiana, for instance.
Yep.
That individual was not permitted to carry a firearm.
Right. Right.
But under the laws of the state of Indiana,
Yep.
thank God he had a firearm.
Absolutely.
A 40-yard shot with a 3.5-inch barrel.
Right.
My hat is off to him.
Yeah.
But let's think about what would have happened.
Oh, absolutely.
That is why I support it. Yep. That is why. I've had incidents in my own law enforcement career. Mm-hmm. Firearms, it's a very touchy subject.
Sure.
But, and you know,
yes, sir.
You train people.
Yes, sir.
And that's what we do. We train people.
Yep.
And it works.
Yep.
And it works. That individual in Greenwood was trained by his grandfather.
Absolutely. It was fantastic.
You get no better. And look how it worked.
Yep.
So, yes, when it comes to the Second Amendment, huge proponent.
And as far as what advice are you giving to the Marshall County residents as far as gun ownership, as far as, concealed carry, that type of thing? What's your feeling on that?
I believe that every Marshall County owner that has a concern about society, mm-hmm. that has a personal concern of simply going to the grocery store, mm-hmm. going to Walmart, being in mass public, mm-hmm. if they feel secure with a firearm and are properly trained, the state of Indiana lawmakers have made that possible. Yep. I think they should. I support that. They should. The more the better. Every household should have one. That's my personal opinion. But I understand there's some people that aren't comfortable with it. That's fine. But for the people that aren't comfortable, there's one or two people that are.
Sure.
And those are the lifesavers when we need them.
Sure. And that's, and I wanted to have you reiterate that just a little bit, which you did a fantastic job with. And, there are sheriffs out there, not necessarily in the northern Indiana part, but sure. Central and far, Chicago area type
yes.
Sheriffs and mayors and such that, they're sheriffs, but they're kind of anti-gun.
Yes.
This area won't support that in any way, shape, or form. So,
and as well we shouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well we should not.
Now, the one little kicker, and I'll give the audience this piece of advice from Two Bear Arms, is yes, we have constitutional carry, which requires you not to have a permit in order to carry a gun. The thing that I'm asking all our viewers, and I tell all our customers, still go ahead and get your permit. The reason that I say that is because we have to have demographics go downstate that show that permits are still being issued. Because what can happen is if nobody goes and gets their permits and just starts carrying, at a certain point, the liberal side of politics will say, well, the number of gun owners have dropped because there's not as many permits.
Yes.
There's no statistics at that point if they're not going ahead and getting that permit. The permit's basically free to get at this point. You have to pay the processing fee and such, and it takes probably all said and done by the time you do the fingerprints and everything, you've got an hour invested in it.
Yes.
Get the permit, then you've got it. The other advantage of having the permit is the reciprocity of it, going from state to state.
Yes.
Just because Indiana has constitutional carry, it does not make it legal to carry into Michigan and Ohio and even Illinois and Kentucky. You have to have the permit. There again, questions always, well, I can't carry in Illinois. They changed that a couple of years ago. You can in your vehicle, but if you step out of your vehicle, the gun has to be locked in some type of enclosure plus locked in the car. You cannot step out on pavement with the firearm, but you can carry it loaded and holstered while you're traveling through the state.
Correct.
And just like we went to Minnesota a couple of weeks ago, we filled up with gas before we got to Illinois. We filled up with gas in Iowa.
Yes.
So we were armed the whole time. We never had to leave any tax dollars in Illinois, which was fantastic. So.
And me and my wife, we travel, and we practice the same thing. I buy my fuel in Indiana, and I go through Illinois, and I do not stop.
Absolutely. Exit 1 there by Cabela's, stop, get fuel, and roll back out. Yep, and you're good to go. So
that's right.
Fantastic. Yes. Well, good deal. We like to get that information out to everybody. The other thing that I know has been kind of a hot button, we have a lot of Marshall County customers that come in here.
Sure.
Things, discussed at different times. And one thing that I know is somewhat of a hot button over there is the current and the past 4 years or 6 years or so of the jail situation.
Yes.
What can you tell me that are some of the problems that you see and how you're going to fix them going forward with the jail and inmate situation?
Sure. I believe that currently the jail is just mismanaged.
Okay.
There was a big push a few years back because the jail population got pretty high, and there was a concern regarding that. The county spent over $1 million in, do we need to build a new pod, in a study that wasn't completed, and it was just shelved. But again, I think we need to look at this with different optics. And I want to promote better training in the jail, better jail management, and management of inmates. There's a JCAT program in the jail, which is terrific. We need to provide programming for the jail, but we need to direct that programming to level 6s and level 5 inmates that are staying within the county. I feel that inmates that level 2s and level 3s, even though we have to give them something to do while they're waiting for sentencing and while they're in our jails, we have to keep them occupied. We just can't lock them in a cell because that just creates problems. Currently, there was, I believe, 23 separate lawsuits filed. Those lawsuits were from inmates with concerns. And if you look at the meat of those lawsuits, it was mismanagement. We could have deterred a lot of those lawsuits. Now, no inmates received any money out of those lawsuits upon settling. However, the cost in legal fees to defend those lawsuits was over $140,000.
Sure.
So that's taxpayers' money.
Absolutely.
So I want to maintain the JCAT program, but I want to expand it as well. I believe that we can have outside gardening, outside work for the inmates. Other sheriffs have done that in surrounding counties, and it just gives them something to keep themselves busy, not just locked in a cell, causing problems for our employees. I want to do better training for our employees and look at the jail with a different set of optics and how can we make it flow better? How can we make it easier? We've had a few jail deaths. There's a big lawsuit from a jail death a year ago. In recent weeks, we had another jail death. We need to prevent those. Because of lawsuits, because of liability. Liability today across society is huge. As you being a business owner, and especially firearms and everything, the liability that you face is the amount of money it costs you not even to put a key in the door.
Yes, sir.
But that affects all of us. And a customer that comes in and buys a gun is helping you pay for that liability out of that purchase. Well, taxpayers, even though it's not looked at that for a profit, but taxpayers' money has to be spent wisely.
Right.
And we, as the chief law enforcement officer, if my job is to protect the people in the 429 square miles of Marshall County from crime, I also feel that it has to be to protect those people in the 429 square miles from liability.
Absolutely.
From spending unnecessary tax dollars on unnecessary lawsuits.
Great.
And that's what I want to focus on. There's a current issue with audits and inmate trust money. It's easily fixed. Again, I hate to use this again, but we're not reinventing the wheel here.
Right.
And I reached out to some current sheriffs that are friends of mine. How do you handle the inmate trust fund? And lo and behold, the answer, I had the full answer on how to handle that and the corrections inside 40 minutes. Those are the things I want to use. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I have all the answers. The sheriff's department is a big elephant. You have to take little bites at it. But I am committed to find the answers, to solve the problems, and to address the problems. I'm committed for that. But it's communication and building relationships with other people that already have the answers.
Right.
One county, one protocol. Sheriff Reynolds in Porter County. It's already there.
Right.
Why not utilize it? And they're willing to give that information.
Sure. Talk to me a little bit about communications.
Well, communications has failed. It has dropped down. Back when I started, we had the UHF. You probably remember that when you worked the road. And sometimes, depending, we could literally listen to the state of Michigan better we could in our own county. And thankfully, we can laugh about that. about that now.
Right.
But in recent months, the training of our dispatchers has faltered. The quality of dispatching has faltered. And there's been unnecessary equipment failures that affects all the first responders. There's no communication coming from the jail, from the sheriff's department, dispatch center, to these first responders. Mm-hmm. And we need to. Communication is just not talking over the mic. Communication is going to the fire departments, going to the EMS, going to police chiefs, mm-hmm. letting them know when you do have a problem, and also going to them when you don't have a problem, but they may have a problem. They may have a concern. Have that open dialogue. I have been meeting with all the fire departments, EMS, and police chiefs throughout the county, listening to their concerns and addressing and wanting to address them. So if I am successful, if the Lord blesses me with this, I want to hit the ground running.
Sure.
I want to bring better training, more pointed training to the dispatch staff. Mm-hmm. I want to do things for them that make them feel needed, want to be needed, but so they understand the importance of what they're doing in serving the community.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Jeff, I wish you the best of luck with this.
Thank you.
And, I'll do anything I can to help you on this. I think you're the right guy for the job. And I don't say that lightly. I don't endorse many candidates. We have people come by here a lot of times, from the surrounding counties, from this county, want to put their yard signs out, want to do an interview, that type of thing. We're very selective on what we do. And, maybe that's bad business on my part. I should, endorse everybody so I'm friends with everybody, but we don't do it that way. We only back the people that we strongly feel can do the job properly.
I appreciate that.
And, I wish you the very best luck with this. And the best thing I can tell the audience is we need to vote smart this year. Across the nation in every election, we need to vote smart. We don't need to vote straight ticket. Take the time to learn about your candidates. If there's a section that you don't know about, don't vote on it. Don't just cast a vote because they have an R or a D or, an I by their name. Get some research done. Know the candidates you're voting for. Vote smart, not straight ticket. This is Kurt with Two Bear Arms. We thank everybody for watching. As we always say, keep your powder dry. Thanks.